Hi, this is Sarah from Cozy Nest Design. Today I want to demonstrate for you how to make these really cool roses. And you may have seen these before made out of ribbon, but these are actually made out of seatbelt webbing. And seatbelt webbing is one of my favorite mediums to use in sewing and designing. It's really durable, comes in lots of different colors, and it's easy to clean. And so it's just a great medium. So the question on your mind is probably, well, where do you get it? I sell it on my website, but you can also find it on Etsy or eBay. And these are some of the colors that I have. I usually carry about 40 different colors. And as you can see, they're just really shiny and beautiful. And they also come in a number of different weaves and different numbers of bars on them. So there's a lot of options there. The other thing you're going to need to do this project is glue, and I tried using hot glue. I found it didn't stick very well, and it was just really a sort of an exercise in pain with all the burns, and so I would suggest using super glue. The thing about the super glue though is you want to be careful what kind you get. You want to be sure to get a gel because it sits on top of the webbing a little bit better, and you also want to be sure to get one that is formulated for plastic because they're not all made the same. And I've tried this Scotch super glue gel. It works really well, and today I'm also going to be trying this Loctite Ultra Gel, and haven't really worked too much with this, so we're going to see how this goes. So what I want to do first is show you the technique to do this, and then after that I'm going to start one from the beginning and show you how to do it all the way through. But once you get that technique, you'll be good to go. So stay tuned. Now I want to show you the technique for getting this done, and this is a technique that I'm calling roll and wrap. I don't know if that's really what it's called, but that's what I'm calling it. And the reason I want to show you on one that's already been started is because I think it's a lot easier to see and avoid frustration if you can really tell what's happening. So what I have is my core. I have a few petals all the way around, and this is the tail. So all you have to do to create a petal is to roll the tail to the back and then wrap it around the core. So one more time, you just roll this to the back and then wrap it. Now you're going to want to secure this, and so after you have done your roll, you would put a little of the glue we talked about right there and then wrap it and hold, which of course is the hardest part because you really need to wait for that to be dry, so you got to be patient. And once that's dry, you would just roll again, glue right there, and wrap. And it really is just as easy as that. So we're going to start one from scratch, and we'll see how that goes. Now that we know how to wrap and roll, we can go ahead and start our flower from scratch. So this is some seatbelt webbing. I have about 27 inches. You can go longer or shorter, just depending on what you're after. And the first thing we want to do is to finish the edge, because if we don't, this can fray over time, which is really terrific if you're trying to make tassels like this one. This is what will happen, but that's another video, and so we want to prevent that from happening. And so you can hot glue it or whatever. So I'm going to pretend that I've done that on this end, that I have finished it off with some glue, and then you'll notice that I've also folded the corner over like this and glued it down really well. Now, some seatbelt webbing is going to be really stiff, and you're not going to be able to glue such a small portion down. It'll be so stiff you'll have to glue much more of an angle, and that's okay. That's just one of the variations. It doesn't really seem to matter, and so that has been done and glued. Now notice how this creates a little triangle. You want to kind of visualize that this is the stem of your rose, and this is a little handle that we can hang on to as we wrap and roll around this portion of the flower. And so we're going to start our wrapping and rolling now. So we just wrap it like this, and then we're going to roll. And this is the hardest part because it's so tight and it's going to want to shift around on you and all that stuff. But you can finally achieve that. And as you can see, I'm still holding on to that little triangle. That's really important that you keep that just as it is. Now you don't want to wait too long before you glue this because it is going to want to shift and roll around, and so I would put a little bit of glue there and go ahead and wrap. So I'm going to do that off camera, and we'll come back and finish up our rose. Okay, so I have my core all glued, securely. You can see that my triangle is still down there, and that first roll is glued down. And I've decided I'm going to switch glues because that one took a little bit longer than I wanted to dry, and so all I'm going to do from here on in is just roll and wrap it around that core while I hang on to this little stem down here. And each time I roll and wrap, I'm going to put a little bit of glue and then hold it there to dry just for a second. And you know, you could find, if you get a little impatient and you don't want to wait for that one to dry, you can stick a pin in that, roll the next one, and by the time you get that second one glued, the first one should be dry. If you can see that, I'm gluing there. Hopefully these are staying. We'll find out. So I'm going to let that dry just for a minute because I want to show you the back of this, because that's going to become important when we want to finish the rose, when we reach the end of the tail and want to finish it off. So when I flip it over, you'll see that each one of our rolls to the back creates a little fold back here, and there's a little space, and we're going to use that space when we finish our rose off, hopefully by inserting our tail in there to give it a nice clean look. And so those little folds are going to go around and around and around with each rotation of our rose here. And really, sometimes you want to play with this because sometimes you might want a tighter roll and sometimes you want a looser roll, just depending on the look you want. And that's part of the experimentation process, and that's actually kind of fun. The best part about this is that you really can't screw it up. And believe me, I've tried, but they always look good. So you really don't have to worry too much about it. It's really fun. Okay, so we're in the home stretch for our rose, and all we have to do is finish it off at the back. I've sort of rolled and wrapped this to the point where I have just a little bit of the tail left, and we need to kind of finish this off so it's going to look good. In my back, you can see all the different folds that we talked about, and this one is probably the one I'm going to use to attempt to hide my tail under. So I'm going to flip it back around to the front. I'm going to do a final roll, and maybe even one more. We'll see how that goes, and then flip it back around. And with any luck, I'm going to be able to hide that within that fold. See how there's a little hole there, and you can just maybe shove it in there. Now, before you do that, of course, you're going to want to finish off that edge so that it doesn't fray, and you'll want to glue it in there really, really well. So that just leaves this little guy that we have to deal with. Now, if you're going to put this in a vase or something, you could always put some, you know, that floral wire, I think it's called, or make a stem for it. But if you want this to lay flat, then this little guy has to go. And remember that when you cut seatbelt webbing, you always run the risk of it fraying. So what we'll want to do is cut it and then really super fast get our glue and glue that really, really, really well, so it's just a little nub that's left. And that'll work just fine. The other thing you could do is get a round of felt and glue it on there if you want to put a pin back, or if you want to finish this off a little bit further on the back, that works just as well. So you kind of need to make it suit your project. In any case, I think it turned out really great, and I'm going to post at the end of this video a few pictures of some ideas of what you can do these with. I wanted to tell you that they say that these do not rot or mildew or anything like that. So I was thinking it might be fun to put one on an outdoor pillow and put it on my patio. Have never done that, and it would be interesting to test and see how that fares. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and please let me know if you have any comments or questions. Thanks. Bye.